My name is Jillian Parekh, but my friends call me Jill. I'm a lover of all things orange chocolate. Think One Tree Hill is way better than the OC. And as a person who stutters, I strive to empower women with invisible disabilities to go after their dreams, just like I did. I'm a mindset coach specializing in imposter syndrome, helping women overcome their inner imposter with my master's in psychology and my certification in neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis, EFT tapping, and time techniques. And this is the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. This podcast is for you if you're an entrepreneurial woman trying to navigate the online space with a lot of passion and a lot of uncertainty. If you feel like your ideas are unoriginal, that your message isn't necessary or important, or like you're a complete and total fraud, then you've come to the right place. This podcast will take you from imposter to empowered with ninja-like brain hacks, easy to implement strategies, and uplifting real talk to make you feel like everything you want is in reach. Find me on Instagram at YourCoachJill to let me know how much you loved this episode once you're done listening. Time to kick that inner imposter to the curb. Let's get started. Hey everybody, what's going on? So I'm actually driving. Don't worry, hands-free, Bluetooth, we're all good. And honestly, driving really gives me like really good ideas. And not so much like even just ideas about like programs or stuff like that, but just what's true for me and like what's coming up and something that I really feel like you guys always need to hear. And I was listening to Amanda Francis's, like one of her videos that she posted. So something she does is she like posts clips from her bundles or her courses. She'll post like a 2 to 3 minute clip. And I really love her stuff because she just like speaks from the heart, and she's just really unapologetic about who she is, and I really would love to embody that and be in the energy of that at all times, because when we're not unapologetic is when we do things that are maybe out of character or not fully aligned to our true selves. Anyways, I was listening to one of her videos, and she was talking about how like even when she had no money and she was getting her coaching business off the ground, and everyone was like, why would you want to be a coach? She knew that she was going to be successful. She always knew. And it had me thinking about like the impatience that some of us have about things working out, and a lot of the questions that I get either in the DMs or from people who I coach, especially when they're really frustrated or stressed out, or they just feel like things aren't happening for them. What's the indication that stuff isn't happening for you? Because I'm not seeing results. But it's because we put an expectation and a time restriction on the results that we want to create. And it's not our fault. Like, partially there is a culture in the online space to be like, I went from 0 to 100K in 6 months or something like that. So I can totally understand how the comparison game here plays strong, because we're looking at all these other people who are usually showing you their best sliver of business, you know? Like, yeah, you may have went from 0 to 100K in a really short amount of time, but we don't see the behind the scenes of what somebody is experiencing, you know what I mean? So this impatience that we have really can fuck up our manifestations or fuck up what we want to achieve because we believe it needs to be a certain way. Essentially, when people ask like, how did you just keep going? Like, what kept you motivated? Especially because I work full time. It was the belief that I was always going to do what I'm intending to do. It was the belief that I always knew that I was going to be successful. I just kept going. And instead of looking at it from a bird's eye view and looking at it from such a big fucking perspective and being like, if I don't reach 100K this year, I guess I'm throwing in the towel. I always tell my clients, because they're like, but what if this launch doesn't work out? What if this happens? What if that happens? I'm like, what if? What are you going to do? Are you going to stop your business? They're like, no. I said, are you going to stop launching? Are you going to stop putting out content? Are you going to stop doing this? They're like, no. And I said, you'll figure it out. Like, you'll figure out what's going to happen. You'll figure out what your next move is. But we are always, because we are human beings and it's our natural instinct to jump ship when things get bad or they're not going the way we want, so we can redirect ourselves. Honestly, Catherine Zankina from Manifestation Babe always talks about like manifesting in the 11th hour. So knowing that your manifestations are coming to fruition and not getting frustrated or impatient when they don't come in a timeline that you expect them to. I think this is probably the hardest part of manifesting, or the hardest part of really going for your desires, because you never know when it's going to happen. But the fact is, if you keep going, it's inevitable. When you keep going, when you keep making the content, when you keep showing up on Instagram stories, someone's gonna bite. Someone's gonna see you and be like, wow, she's really consistent, and like she always gives really good value, and they're gonna be watching you because you're there, because you're in front of their face. I honestly think that it's more of an ego trip than anything when people get really impatient and they're like, but I'm not seeing results. It's like, well, who told you it was supposed to happen within the span of 5 minutes? Or 6 months, or even a year. I didn't see any traction on my business for probably like a year and a half. Like, I really started my business in January 2018, but I didn't hire a coach or anything. So I would like to say I officially started in 2019, because that's the first year I really only have had my business and it being profitable as of January 2019. If I would have put a time limit on when I was going to try and make this thing work, I just had the benefit of having a full-time job that I could lean back on. And I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of messaging where people are like, in the online space, like, you're not a real business until you are full-time. And I don't believe that messaging. I've made $100,000 this year from simply working my full-time job and doing that. So I wouldn't exactly qualify $100,000 a year as a little business or as a side hustle. But essentially what I'm saying is that if I would have put a time limit on my results, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you right now. If I would have been impatient and been like, why aren't things working for me, and switching things up every 5 minutes, there's no consistency there. Like, there's no consistency not only for your audience, but for you as well. Because when you're constantly all over the place, you don't feel secure, you don't feel stable, you don't feel rooted in your purpose. Us as human beings, we're really ritualistic, like routine-like human beings. And it feels unpredictable and scary to constantly be changing things on yourself. So why do you think your brain is freaking out because you constantly try to change your niche, or try to change your messaging, or try to change this, or try to change that, and your brain is freaking out because it's like, I hope this works. I hope this works. I hope this works. Like, that's what your brain is saying. But we have to also define what works means. Is it going to feel like it worked after you make your first $1,000? Is it gonna make you feel like it's worked after you've made your first 10K, your first 20K, your first 100K? I know that for me, when I started, I had this unrealistic expectation of what it working would look like this whole business thing would look like. And every time I got a client, or every time I got a session, or somebody booked a session with me, I would always have an excuse for my brain. I would always tell my brain, well, she's not a real client, she was a referral. Or, well, she's not a real client, she got half off. Well, she's not a real client, I had to really convince her in the DMs that this is what she needed. Like, just really silly stuff. I would make it almost as I was moving the goalpost. Like, I was moving the goalpost for what success and what a big milestone was. Like, I didn't celebrate $1,000 and I didn't celebrate $10,000, but I celebrated 100K. Fuck yes, I did, because I was like, damn, I need to celebrate more, because that's a big accomplishment. And I wish I celebrated those smaller milestones. I wish I taught myself that it working, like this whole business thing working, could mean whatever I wanted it to mean. I think it's just because I had so much student debt and I had so much credit card debt from investing in my business that I just was convinced that unless all my debt was paid off, I didn't have a successful business. But that was a limitation that I put on myself. That was a restriction that I put on myself. And my life has been just a plethora of restrictions, and I'm not allowed to feel this or have this, or I'm not allowed to be happy until I have this goal achieved. But the thing is if you always think like that, you're never going to be truly happy with what's in front of you. So to bring it back to the point of this episode, was that what would you do if you absolutely knew that your success was inevitable? We're always afraid to make decisions in our business. We're afraid to invest. We're afraid to do this. We're afraid to do that. But what if you were coming from the place of, regardless of what happens with that investment, regardless of if that investment makes you lots of money, regardless of anything of that, what's your decision if you knew that you were going to be successful? And what if you released some of the expectation and released some of the restriction on yourself and just let yourself be and celebrate and kept the blinders on, knowing that you are going to reach your definition of success? I want you to really focus on what you think success is. And I want you to define it for yourself. And then I want you to break it down into like smaller chunked milestones that you can actually celebrate, that you can actually pay attention to. It's kind of like being in a car. You know where you're going. You have the destination. And every time you inch closer and closer, you know how close you are to your destination. It's the same thing with your business and goal setting. How do you know how far off you are from your goal if you don't actually have a solid goal, a specific goal in place? So it's really important for you to set goals for yourself, to not be afraid of setting goals, because shoot for the moon, you're going to land in the stars. Like, let's not be disappointed when you don't hit your goals, because there's no point in that. There's no point in being disappointed if you don't hit your goals. You are just creating a blueprint for yourself, and you can try again. When it comes to having a growth mindset, a lot of us like to say, oh, we totally have a growth mindset. But do you actually, when it comes to you and your own goals? When you are in a growth mindset type of state, you feel good about the fact that even though I tried, I have another chance to try again. My success is not measured by a failure or a rejection or something not going exactly the way that I want it to. So make sure you're setting goals for yourself. Make sure you know where you're going. Make sure you set milestones for you to accomplish and then celebrate. And don't put restrictions on yourself when it comes to achieving your goals. Don't tell yourself, if I don't make this 100K by 2020, then I guess this was all not worth it. You are the saboteur of your success if that's what you tell yourself, that there needs to be stipulations around your success. When you're making decisions, like I know I've said before, to use your highest self whenever you're making a decision. But even further than that, what if you just knew it was going to fucking work out? Like, what if you knew that you were going to be successful? Like, what if you knew that your business was going to get off the ground, that it was going to be successful, that you were going to have your time? What if you knew that? What decisions would you make then? What if you knew that you were going to be completely supported? Like, I did an income projection for Q4 because right now it's the end of the month of September. I did an income projection for Q4 and then for the beginning of 2021 with my coach the other day. And for some reason, I always avoid those things because I don't like things that aren't set in stone. I don't like planning things if I don't know for certain they're going to happen, which has been a problem for my goal setting, but I've worked through that. And after we did it, she was like, oh, you have like guaranteed income for the next year. Like if you do the bare minimum, this is your guaranteed income. And it was like 10 grand a month. And I was like, oh fuck. Like, I was stuck in this mentality of hustling each month, trying to hit the same numbers, but I'm doing all the stressing out and worrying, when in reality, I could just be relaxed and receive and create, and things would end up the same. So yes, it feels better to stress, and it feels better to tell yourself, why isn't this working? I'm going to change what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. But what if you knew it was going to work out? What if you came from that place? What if you told your inner imposter to shut the fuck up whenever she was like, well, this is going to work? You know that that's not you. You know it's your brain trying to keep you safe. So what if things were just going to work out and you just had to make them happen and you got out of your own way? If you want to get out of your own way, the From Imposter to Empowered course is $197. It is an amazing course to help you release your inner imposter, release the limiting beliefs that are holding you back, so you can unclog the drain and achieve and attract what you actually really want, whether that's in life or in business. You get a discount coupon for being a podcast listener. If you use the coupon code FITE podcast at the link in my show notes, you are able to get 15% off of that. So Again, link in the show notes for the From Imposter to Empowered course. I'm so excited for you guys to grab that. And I will talk to you lovers later. Thanks so much for listening to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. Leave a review so I can continue to make amazing free content for you guys. And speaking of free content, you can go to the link in my show notes and download my free 30-day journaling prompt workbook to help you overcome your inner imposter and attract the abundance you deserve. And finally, screenshot this episode and share it to your Instagram story, tagging me at YourCoachJill so I can share it on my page. See you next time.